his family, min from al-karb, the distress, al-karb, the drowning, al-azim, the ever great, waj'alna, and we made dhurriyatahu, his offspring, hum, they, al-baqin, those who remain. وَتَرَكْنَا, and we left, favorable mention, alayhi, about him, fi, in, al-akhirin, the later people. Salam, salam, ala, be upon, Nuh, Nuh, fi, among, al-alamin, the worlds. Inna, indeed we, kadhalika, thus, najzi, we recompense, al-muhsinin, those who do good with excellence. Innahu, indeed he, min, was from, ibadina, our slaves, al-mu'minin, those who believe. Thumma, then, aghraqna, we drowned, al-akharin, the others. Wa inna, and indeed, min, from, shi'atihi, his faction, la Ibrahim, surely was Ibrahim. Idh, when, ja'a, he came to, rabbahu, his Rabb, biqalb, with a heart, salim, very sound. Idh, when, qala, he said, li abihi, to his father, wa qawmihi, and his people, Mada, what is it that, ta'budun, you all worship? Ifka, is it falsehood? Aliha, gods? Duna, besides Allah, Allah, turidun, you all intend. Fama, then what? Dhannukum, is your thought? Bi Rabb, about Rabb, al-alamin, of the worlds. Fanadhara, nadhrah, so he took a look. Fi, into, an-nujum, the stars. Faqala, then he said, Inni, indeed I, saqim, am ill. Fatawallaw, so they turned away. Anhu, from him. Mudbirin, as ones who turn their backs. Faragha, then he turned secretly. Ila, to, alihatihim, their gods. Faqala, then he said, Ala, do not, ta'kulun, you all eat. Ma, what, lakum, is with you all. La, not, tantiqun, you all speak. Faragha, then he turned secretly. Alayhim, against them. Darba, striking. Bilyamin, by the right hand. فَأَقْبَلُوا, then they advanced, ilayhi, towards him, yazifun, as they go quickly. Qala, he said, أَتَعْبُدُونَ, do you all worship? Ma, what? Tanhitun, you all carve. Wallahu, while Allah, khalaqakum, he created you all. Wama, and what? Ta'malun, you all do. Ta'malun, you all make. Qalu, they said, Ubnu, you all build, lahu, for him, bunyana, a building. Fa'alquhu, then you all cast him, fi, in, al-jahim, the blazing fire. Fa'aradu, so they intended, bihi, with him, kaida, a conspiracy. Faja'alnahum, so we made them, al-asfalin, the lowest ones. Waqala, and he said, Inni, indeed I, dhahib, am one who goes, ila, to, Rabbi, my Rabb, sayahdin, he shall guide me. Rabbi, my Rabb, habli, you bestow upon me, min, from, as-salihin, those who are righteous. Fabasharunahu, so we gave him good news, bi ghulam, of a son, halim, one who is forbearing. Falamma, so when, balagha, he reached, ma'ahu, with him, as-sa'ya, the age of striving, qala, he said, Ya bunayya, O my son, inni, indeed I, ara, I see, fi, in, al-manam, the dream, anni, that indeed I, adbahuk, I slaughter you. Fanzur, so you think, mada, what is it that, tara, you consider. Qala, he said, Ya abati, O my father, if'al, you do, ma, what, tu'mar, you are commanded. Satajiduni, you shall find me, in, if, sha'allahu, Allah wills, min, from, as-sabirin, those who are patient. Falamma, then when, aslama, they both submitted. Watallahu, and he laid him, lil jabin, on the forehead. Wanadainahu, and we called out to him, on that, Ya Ibrahim, O Ibrahim, qad, indeed, saddaqta, you confirmed the truth of ar-ru'ya, the dream. Inna, indeed we, kadhalika, thus, najzi, we recompense, al-muhsinin, those who do good with excellence. Inna, indeed, hadha, this, lahuwa, surely it, al-bala, is the trial, al-mubin, the clear. وَفَدَيْنَاهُ, and we ransomed him, بِذِبْح, with a sacrifice, عظيم, great. وَتَرَكْنَا, and we left favorable mention, عَلَيْهِ, about him, fi, among al-akhirin, the later people. Salam, salam, ala, be upon Ibrahim, Ibrahim. Kadhalika, thus, najzi, we recompense, al-muhsinin, those who do good with excellence. Innahu, indeed he, min, was from, ibadina, our slaves, al-mu'minin, those who believe. وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ, and we gave him good news, bi-Ishaq, of Ishaq, nabiyya, a prophet, min, from as-salihin, those who are righteous. وَبَارَكْنَا, and we bestowed great blessing, عَلَيْهِ, upon him, وَعَلَى, and upon Ishaq, وَمِن, and from ذُرِّيَّتِهِمَا, their offspring, Muhsin, is one who does good with excellence, وَظَالِم, and one who does wrong, لِنَفْسِهِ, to himself, Mubin, clear. وَلَقَدْ, and surely indeed, mananna, we granted a great favor, ala, upon Musa, wa Harun, and Harun. وَنَجَّيْنَاهُمَا, and we saved them too, وَقَوْمَهُمَا, and their people, min, from, al-karb, the distress, al-karb, the drowning, al-azim, the ever-great, وَنَصَرْنَاهُمْ, and we helped them, فَكَانُوا, so they were, hum, they truly, al-ghalibin, those who prevail. وَآتَيْنَاهُمَا, and we gave them to al-kitab, the book, al-mustabin, be extremely clear. وَهَدَيْنَاهُمَا, and we guided them to as-sirat, the path, al-mustaqim, the straight. وَتَرَكْنَا, and we left favorable mention, عَلَيْهِمَا, for them too, fi, among al-akhirin, the later people. Salam, salam, ala, be upon Musa, wa Harun, and Harun. Inna, indeed we, kadhalika, thus, najzi, we recompense, al-muhsinin, those who do good with excellence. Innahuma, indeed they too, min, were from, ibadina, our slaves, al-mu'minin, those who believe. Let's listen to the recitation of these verses.
We can do the translation, the reading activity for now. And then if Sister Mariam is not here, we'll play the recitation, inshallah. Your mom is here.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون. Indeed, the companions of paradise that day will be amused in joyful occupation.
Can you, which verse is it? So everybody can follow along. 56, okay.
هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون. They and their spouses in shades reclining on adorned couches.
لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون. For them therein is fruit, and for them is whatever they request.
سلام قولا من رب الرحيم. And peace, a word from a merciful Lord.
وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون. Then he will say, but stand apart today, you criminals.
ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. Did I not enjoin upon you, O children of Adam, that you not worship Satan, for indeed he is to you a clear enemy.
وأن يعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. And that you worship only me, this is a straight path.
ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون. And he had already led astray from among you much of creation, so did you not use reason?
هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون. This is the hellfire which you were promised.
اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. Enter to burn therein today for what you used to deny.
اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. That day we will seal over their mouths and their hands will speak to us and their feet will testify about what they used to earn.
ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون. And if we willed, we could have obliterated their eyes, and they would have raced to find the path, and how could they see?
ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم ثم استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. And if we willed, we could have deformed them, paralyzing them in their places so they would not be able to proceed, nor could they.
ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. And he to whom we granted a long life we reverse in creation so will they not understand.
وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين. And we did not give Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam knowledge of poetry, nor is it befitting for him. It is not but a message and a clear Qur'an.
لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين. To warn whoever is alive and justify the word against the disbelievers.
أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون. Do they not see that we have created for them from what our hands have made, raising livestock, and then they are their owners?
وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون. And we have tamed them for them, so some of them they ride and some of them they eat.
ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. And for them therein are other benefits and drinks, so will they not be grateful?
واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون. They have taken besides Allah false deities that perhaps they would be helped.
لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون. They are not able to help them and they themselves are soldiers in attendance.
فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون. So let not their speech grieve you. Indeed, we know what they conceal and what they do.
أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين. Does man not consider that we created him from a mere sperm drop, and then at once he is a clear adversary?
Alright, we'll stop here. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How's everyone today? Alhamdulillah. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وربي زدني علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا ورزقا طيبا اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما. Amen. Okay, lesson number 233, Surah As-Saaffat, verses 1 to 74. This surah contains 182 verses, approximately 860 words, approximately 3,826 letters. Surah As-Saaffat was revealed in the late mid-Meccan era. And the message of this surah primarily focuses on submission before Allah and humbling oneself before Allah. So, in summary, we could say that the message of this surah is, O people, submit before Allah, before you are made to submit before Him on the Day of Judgment. This surah begins with the mention of malaika, angels. Surah Fatir also begins with the mention of angels. Okay? In fact, Surah Fatir has another name, and that is Surah Al-Malaika. And you will find the message of both these surahs is similar. Okay? The message of Surah As-Saaffat and Surah Fatir. And generally, the purpose behind the mentioning of malaika, angels, is to highlight their prompt submission before Allah. And really, their submission before Allah is not only prompt, it's not only swift, it's consistently swift. It's a complete submission. So here, this surah, Surah As-Saaffat, it begins with the mention of angels. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, was-Saaffati Saffa, by those lined up in rows. Faz-Zadirati Zajra, and those who drive the clouds. Fattaliyati Dhikra, and those who recite the message. Was-Saaffati Saffa, by those lined up in rows. The term Saaffat and Saffa, both from the root letters Sad, Fa, Fa. And the term Saaffat is the plural of Saaffa. And the term Saaffa is the feminine of Saaf, Fa having a shadda. And the term Saaf was actually Saafif, Fa'il. Okay? So, the meaning of the term Saaffa is one lined up in a row. Okay? Because the term Saffa, it means to set up in a row. So Saaffat are those standing in a row, lined up. And the term Saf is used for a row of similar things. It is used for when similar things or beings are arranged in a row. But there is also union in what it is that they're doing. So when the term saf is used, it's used for a row, right? But it's used for a row of similar things or beings amongst which there is union also in terms of what they're doing. So when you think about a saf of worshippers, people praying in congregation, so those people in one saf are arranged in a row, aligned, and then they're also performing the same action, which is of praying. Okay, so this is a saf. But here, with the mention of those lined up in rows, there is a point that is being emphasized. So first of all, was-Saaffati Saffa, by those lined up in rows, an oath is being taken here. Waw is harf qasam. And waw is one of the huruf of qasam that are used when an oath is taken. Ba is another one, ta is also another one. These are all huruf of qasam, used when an oath is being taken. And we learned earlier that when an oath is taken, there are 4 components involved, right? What are those? 4 components when it comes to the qasam. One of them I just mentioned. Harf qasam. Harf qasam, right? So in this case, in this surah, that harf qasam is what? Wow. Then what else is there involved? Yes. The maqsoom alayhi. What is that? That upon which the qasam is being taken. Okay. Then there's also the jawab qasam, which is the point that is being emphasized through the oath. But then there's also the one more component. What is that? The one who's taking the oath. Muqsim. Okay. So here we learn was-Saaffati Saffa, by those lined up in rows. So harf qasam is wow. And maqsoom alayhi As-Saaffati Saffa, those lined up in rows. And the muqsim, Allah. Now this is one of the descriptions of the malaika, the angels, that they are arranged in rows. Okay. So the angels who arrange themselves in worship, in prayer, in the heavens, they formulate rows. Like the believers in this dunya formulate rows when they pray in congregation. In Surah As-Saaffat, we learn in verses 165 and 166, وَإِنَّا لَنَحْنُ الصَّافُّونَ وَإِنَّا لَنَحْنُ الْمُسَبِّحُونَ. And indeed, we are those who line up for prayer, we meaning angels. And indeed, we are those who exalt Allah, we do tasbih. So again, the term saffa, it is used for setting up in a row, lining up certain items or beings. In Surah As-Saff also we learn in verse 4, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِهِ صَفًّا كَأَنَّهُمْ بُنْيَانٌ مَرْصُوصٌ. Indeed, Allah loves those who fight in His cause in a row, as though they are a single structure joined firmly. And also, as I mentioned, the term saf is used for when similar things are arranged in a row and there is also union in what they're doing. The expression saf min al-ibil is used for camels standing in rows with their feet sticking out in a certain fashion. The term sawaf is used for when camels are to be slaughtered and they are made to stand in a specific way. Also, birds, when they fly with their wings spread out, they're described as Saaffat. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقَهُمْ صَافَّاتٍ وَيَقْبِضْنَ. So here, in terms of the description of the malaika, As-Saaffati Saffa, it's referring to angels who spread their wings awaiting Allah's instructions. They're listening attentively. And then as soon as the hukum is given, instantly they carry it out without delay. And also this indicates that when the angels stand in front of Allah, they don't stand haphazardly. They arrange themselves properly in straight rows. For Allah's worship, number one, and number two, to receive a command from Him. So they complete the first row first and then the next one, and their rows are not distances apart. They're unified. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, addressing the Sahaba, Jabir ibn Samurah, he reports, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came out to us and he said, Uskunu fi salah, be calm in prayer. Meaning there should be sukoon in your salah. Okay. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came out to us another time and he said, ألا تصفون كما تصف الملائكة عند ربها? Will you not form your prayer rows as the angels do before their Lord? So we said, how do the angels form rows before their Lord? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, يتمون الصفوف الأول ويتراصون في الصف. They complete the first rows and fill in the gaps between rows. Also, making rows properly is a part of the Muslim identity. We learn that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, we have been made to excel other people in 3 matters. And then he said, جُعِلَتْ صُفُوفُنَا كَصُفُوفِ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Our rows have been made like the rows of the angels. And the whole earth has been made a place of prayer for us. And its dust has been made a purifier for us in case water is not available, meaning we can perform tayammum. And he mentioned another characteristic as well. So to keep oneself in a row is a sign of discipline, a sign of obedience, a sign of humility. So Allah loves those believers who formulate rows properly in His way, in worshipping Him, in obeying His commands. And if you think about it, in any collective group, a saf is a sign of strength. And that's why even when you see, military parades, you will find what? Soldiers arranging themselves in rows. Because it's awe-inspiring, right? And also, when in any collective work, rows are formulated properly, this is an indication that people know what their places are. They know their positions. Meaning tasks have been delegated to them properly. There's organization. And when in any group there is organization, then they can obey orders more promptly. They can perform their tasks more promptly, with greater efficiency. So making a saf properly is step number 1 when it comes to accomplishing a task at a communal level, in a collective fashion. Step number 1. So here Allah mentions taking an oath by As-Saaffat, was-Saaffati Saffa, by those lined up in rows, those who form rows. Faz-Zadirati Zajra, and those who drive the clouds. The term Zadirat, plural of Zadirah, from the term Zajr. Zajr means to push something forward. It can also mean to scold, or to stop someone from doing something, to restrain someone. So Zajr basically is dafa' biquwwati as-sawt, to stop through a strong voice. So one meaning of the term Zajr is to drive, to push forward, and secondly, to scold or to stop or to restrain. So when it comes to the second meaning, to scold and to stop, it is said, Zajartul ibila wal ghanam, meaning I scared the camel and goats with a loud voice, meaning I stopped them. And then this term, Zajr, is also used in the meaning of inciting. Okay? Inciting someone to do something, or inciting creatures to move in a certain direction. Okay. Faz-Zadirati Zajra, and those who drive the clouds, those who rebuke. And this term, Zadirat, it's the plural of Zadirah, which is feminine. And the feminine is used for malaika because the word malaika, when you observe it, it ends with a ta marbuta. Okay? Only linguistically is this feminine gender used for the malaika. Only linguistically. Because angels are not feminine themselves. Okay? They don't have division of gender amongst them. And they are referred to as feminine because they're in a group. Okay? And if they were really feminine, then the masculine form of any word would never be used in the Qur'an for them, but we find that it is used. Okay? فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا, and those who drive the clouds, those who rebuke, meaning the angels who drive the clouds, who bring winds, and also rain. And also they're involved in the movement of the stars and the planets. In other words, they discipline the creation. So the angels, they drive what needs to be driven, and then they also stop whatever needs to be stopped. فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا. Then also this means the angels who take the souls. And when they take certain souls, they scold those souls. Meaning the souls of criminals. Because the souls of criminals don't just easily come out. So they use force. They rebuke them and they also beat them. فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا. Then also the angels that will question people in the grave will also be scolding, meaning they will be stern while they're questioning. Munkar and Nakir. And then also the angels who will treat the disbelievers on the day of judgment in a very stern way, rebuking them. And also in the hellfire, they will be rebuked by the angels. So the angels have many duties, and they perform those duties with the use of force whenever it's needed. So they're immediate in their obedience to Allah. As-Saaffat, they formulate rules, they have discipline. And also they're firm in the execution of tasks. فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا. Another way this has been understood is that فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا is referring to scholars who sit in rows while taking ilm. And when it's needed, they also rebuke people. And they forbid people from what is wrong, from munkar, through words of warning. Also, it is said that this could be referring to also mujahideen, those who strive in the way of Allah. How? In rows. Even when it comes to driving their horses in the battlefields, when it's needed, they also rebuke those horses to maintain discipline. So one way this has been understood is that As-Saaffat and Az-Zajirat and also At-Taliyat, as we will learn in the next verse, this is all referring to angels. Okay? Another way this has been understood is that this is referring to ulama, scholars, who are organized when it comes to receiving knowledge, and also they are firm when they need to be firm, and also they're involved in a lot of dhikr. Okay? And this can also be understood in the meaning of mujahideen, those who strive in the way of Allah. They're also disciplined, they formulate rows. And also when they need to use force in terms of maintaining discipline in the battlefield, they do so. And they also do dhikr. فَالتَّالِيَاتِ ذِكْرًا, and those who recite the message. The term taliyat from lam wahu, plural of taliyah. Taliyah is one who recites, the one who is involved in tilawah. Tilawah is recitation. And dhikra is the Qur'an, or the mention of Allah. So فَالتَّالِيَاتِ ذِكْرًا, and those who recite the message, meaning the book sent down by Allah for the guidance of all people, they read it out. So meaning Jibreel alayhi salam would recite what had to be recited. He would read out the wahi. He would recite it. فَالتَّالِيَاتِ ذِكْرًا. Then also dhikra in the meaning of Allah's remembrance in the general sense. So alongside their other important duties, they remember Allah. They're never heedless of Allah's remembrance. So again, these three verses could be referring to, number one, the angels. Okay? How so? As-Saaffat, meaning the angels formulate rows in terms of worshipping Allah and receiving commands from Him. Okay? And when it comes to فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا, the angels, what are they involved in? They drive the clouds, the winds, even the planets, and they also take out souls. And they rebuke. Okay? And they question also with sternness, meaning in the graves. And at-taliyat, how are the angels? At-taliyat dhikra, meaning in the sense of Jibreel alayhi salam reciting the wahi. Okay. Another way this can be understood is this is referring to ulama, the scholars. Okay. So when it is that they acquire knowledge, how do they do so? In a disciplined way, lined up in rows. As-Saaffat. And فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا, when need be, they also rebuke. They forbid what is wrong. And فَالتَّالِيَاتِ ذِكْرًا, they're involved in Allah's remembrance. Meaning in terms of reciting the Qur'an and also general remembrance. And thirdly, mujahideen fi sabilillah. They're also organized in rows. As-Saaffati Saffa. And also فَالزَّاجِرَاتِ زَجْرًا, they also are stern, meaning when it comes to maintaining a certain kind of discipline in the battlefield. And also فَالتَّالِيَاتِ ذِكْرًا, during jihad fi sabilillah, they're involved in Allah's remembrance. So, this qasam, this oath, is taken because a certain point is being emphasized. Okay, but remember when an oath is taken, when a qasam is taken, and Allah takes an oath, He can take an oath by anything He pleases. Okay. What He chooses to take an oath upon is also something of significance. It's great. It's of great virtue. Okay. So these verses are primarily referring to the angels. However, as I mentioned, some mufassirin have said that these verses are referring to the scholars, the ulama, because they also carry out their responsibilities with promptness, with discipline. And they also have these qualities that are mentioned here. They're organized, they're disciplined, they're strict when they need to be, they recite the dhikr. And some scholars say this is referring to mujahideen in the way of Allah. They also formulate rows, they're organized, they also rebuke when they need to, and they remember Allah. So after this oath is taken, and these traits of the malaika are mentioned, what point is being emphasized? What is jawab qasam? Inna ilahakum lawahid. Inna ilahakum lawahid. Indeed, your God is one, having no sharik in any way. The term ilah from Hamza Lamha, ilah means ma'luh, the one who's worshipped and loved because of his ta'zeem, his greatness. And because he is so loved, he is also obeyed. And he's not disobeyed. So out of love, the one who is ilah, ma'luh, is obeyed. And out of ta'zeem, he's not disobeyed. Because when we say that ma'luh is one who is worshipped, one whose ibadah is done. Remember, ibadah includes love and fear. Okay? So out of love, the one who is ilah is obeyed. And out of ta'zeem, out of respect, he's not disobeyed. Okay? Inna ilahakum lawahid. Indeed, your God is one. And notice here, inna for ta'keed, for emphasis. And then lawahid, this lam also for emphasis. So this is a highly emphasized statement. And also, when an oath is taken by something, that something is also sort of made a witness to the fact that is being highlighted, the point that is being highlighted. Okay? So the angels who are so obedient to Allah, they bear witness to this fact. Which fact? Inna ilahakum lawahid. Now, of the beliefs of the Arabs, the pagan Arabs, was that the angels were the daughters of Allah. And so they worshipped them. By taking an oath by the angels, by making them a witness, this false belief is being totally refuted. The angels are not deities. They themselves are submissive before Allah, standing in rows. They themselves work with discipline when they implement the commands of Allah. They themselves remember Allah. So the reality is, the point that is being emphasized is, Inna ilahakum lawahid. Indeed, your God is one. And if the previous verses are understood to be referring to the ulama, the scholars, then the main objective of their teachings is also to do what? Declare Tawheed. Declare the fact that there is no God worthy of worship besides Allah. And their studying and their worship also establishes the same fact. In Surah Muhammad, we learn in verse number 19, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So know that there is no deity except Allah. In Surah Al-Hajj, we learn in verse 62, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْحَقُّ وَأَنَّ مَا يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ هُوَ الْبَاطِلُ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْكَبِيرُ. That is because Allah is the truth, and that which they call upon other than Him is falsehood. And because Allah is the Most High, the Grand. Who is He? رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, Lord of the skies and the earth, وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا, and that between them, وَرَبُّ الْمَشَارِقِ, and Lord of the sunrises. And Rabb means Khaliq, Malik, and Mudabbir. Creator, owner, and planner or sustainer, provider. Lord of the skies and the earth and that between them, and Lord of the sunrises. Rabbul Mashariq. The term Mashariq, plural of Mashriq, from Sheen Ra Qaf. And Mashriq means point of sunrise. Mashriqain is the dual, and Mashariq, plural. The term Shuruq means to rise or to radiate. وَرَبُّ الْمَشَارِقِ, and Lord of the sunrises. And the sunrise is from the east. So why is only that direction being referred to? What about the magharib, the sunsets, the places of sunsetting? That's implied. And if you think about it, every east is the west of another. For you, the sun is rising, but for someone else, it's setting. And Imam Razi, he says that Allah has found it sufficient to mention just the mashariq. So only the mashariq are mentioned, but the magharib are implied. Because each day the sun has a rising, but it also has a setting. Okay. And this is just like we learned also, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمْ سَرَابِيلَ تَقِيكُمُ الْحَرِّ, and He made for you garments that protect you from heat. So only garments that protect you from heat are mentioned, but then also there are garments that protect you otherwise, right? Not from heat, but from the cold. Then also, the term that is used here is mashariq, because every day of the year, actually, when it comes to the sunrise, it comes out from it comes from a new point. The specific point of the sunrise is different. And also, another way this has been understood is that mashariq here is referring to the rising points of not just the sun, but other celestial bodies also, stars, and the moon also, because they also rise and set. Okay. So this indicates that Allah has created whatever is around us. And He is Rabb of all of this. The mashariq, each direction, every day of the year, every sunrise, every sunset. Of not just the sun, right? Every rising point of any celestial body. And any setting point of any celestial body. Inna zayyana as-samaa ad-dunya bi zinatin al-kawakib. Indeed, we have adorned the nearest heaven with an adornment of stars. Zayyana from zayya nun. Zina, as you know, means adornment. We have adorned the nearest heaven, meaning the lowest heaven, the one that we see above us, with an adornment of stars. Bi zinatin al-kawakib. The term kawakib, plural of kawkab, and kawkab is used for a big bright star or planet. So the lowest sky, the one that people see, which is observable, right, from the earth, is covered with stars. And these stars are there for a purpose. And one of those purposes for the stars is beautification, zina. They adorn the sky. In Surah Al-Mulk also we learn in verse 5, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحِ, and we have certainly beautified the nearest heaven with stars. But then Allah also mentions here, وَحِفْظًا مِّن كُلِّ شَيْطَانٍ مَارِدٍ, and has protection against every rebellious devil. So this is connected with kawakib. Verse 7 is connected with what is mentioned in verse 6. Meaning, indeed, we have adorned the nearest heaven with an adornment of stars, وَحِفْظًا, and as protection. To protect the sky as well, as it should be protected. So meaning we have guarded the heavens with meteors. وَحِفْظًا مِّن كُلِّ شَيْطَانٍ مَارِدٍ, and as protection against every rebellious devil. The term shaitan is from the root letters shin, ya, ta, or shin, ta, nun. Okay? And from the root letters shin, ya, ta, we derive the term shata. And shata means to be burnt, or to burn with anger. So shata, yashitu, it means to be burnt or to burn with anger. And when someone chooses to burn with anger, they're actually causing damage to their own selves. And from the root letters shin, ta, nun, shatana, it means to become far removed from something. So the expression shatana anhu, it means he turned away from him in opposition. So again, the term shaitan is used for shaitan from shata yashitu, because he actually is burning with anger. He hates Banu Adam. Okay? And then eventually what's going to happen to him? He will burn in the hellfire. And from shatana, he is far removed. Shaitan is far removed from the truth. He's also far removed from Allah's mercy. And here he is described as shaitanim marid. The term marid from mim ra dal, murud means rebellion. Marada is used for when one gets ahead of contemporaries, when one gets ahead of one's peers. And generally it takes on a negative connotation, this term, marada. وَحِفْظًا مِّن كُلِّ شَيْطَانٍ مَارِدٍ, and as protection against every rebellious devil. In Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 32, we learn, وَجَعَلْنَا السَّمَاءَ سَقَفًا مَحْفُوظًا, and we made the sky a protected ceiling. In Surah Al-Hijr, we learn in verses 17 and 18, وَحَفِظْنَاهَا مِن كُلِّ شَيْطَانٍ رَجِيمٍ إِلَّا مَنِ اسْتَرَقَ السَّمْعَ فَأَتْبَعَهُ شِهَابٌ مُبِينٌ. And we have protected it from every devil expelled from the mercy of Allah, except one who steals a hearing and is pursued by a clear burning flame. And why are the heavens protected against the rebellious devils? لَا يَسَّمَّعُونَ إِلَى الْمَلَإِ الْأَعْلَى, so they may not listen to the exalted assembly of angels. The term يَسَّمَّعُون from Sin Mim Ain, إِسَّمَّعَ, is when one carefully tries to listen to something. It's also used in the meaning of eavesdropping. Okay. And this was actually يَتَسَمَّعُون. The ta has been changed to sin, and so you see the sin with the shadda. لَا يَسَّمَّعُونَ إِلَى الْمَلَإِ الْأَعْلَى, so they may not listen to the exalted assembly of angels. So they may not listen, they meaning كُلِّ شَيْطَانٍ مَارِدٍ, every rebellious devil. So this listening represents the faculty with which they memorize what they hear. So the heavens are protected against the rebellious devils. Why? Because of this reason. لَا يَسَّمَّعُونَ إِلَى الْمَلَإِ الْأَعْلَى, so they may not listen to the exalted assembly of angels. because they do try to eavesdrop on the conversations of the angels when they're conversing about what it is that Allah has revealed, His laws, His decree that they have to execute. And this term, al-mala' al-a'la, the exalted assembly of angels, this is referring to the high council, the assembly of the angels in the heavens. The term mala' from mim lam hamza, mala' applies to chiefs or an assembly of people, a group of people that fill up a place when they go to it. They also fill people's hearts with awe. And the term a'la, the masculine of ulya. So al-mala' al-a'la, the high assembly of the angels. And why is the description al-a'la used? Because it's above the dunya, this assembly. وَيُقْذَفُونَ مِنْ كُلِّ جَانِبٍ, and they are pelted from every side. They are hit with flames, shooting stars, meteors. Min kulli janib, from every side, from all directions, from each direction that they try to reach the heavens through. And the term yuqdhafun from qaf dhal fa, qadhafa literally means to throw. So they are pelted from every side by a shooting star, by a meteor. دُحُورًا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ وَاصِبٌ, repelled, and for them is a constant punishment. The term duhur from dal ha ra, dahara, the term dahara has two elements to it. Number one, to drive or chase or expel someone. And number two, to snub or to repulse someone. And when you combine these two elements, the meaning of duhur is to repel someone very harshly. دُحُورًا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ وَاصِبٌ, repelled. These shayateen are repelled. And for them, in the hereafter, besides this temporary punishment, is عَذَابٌ وَاصِبٌ, a constant punishment. So in the dunya, their punishment is duhuran, and also yuqdhafuna min kulli janib. But in the hereafter, عَذَابٌ وَاصِبٌ, a constant punishment. And the term wasib from waw sad ba, wusub means to last. Ibn Faris, he says that wasaba is used for when something stays in one state permanently, unchanging. Others say that wasaba is used for shidda in pain, severity in pain. And also it is said wasib is used for a vast, spread out desert. So this description, وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ وَاصِبٌ, for them is a constant punishment, meaning a punishment in which there is permanence and extreme pain. And wus'a, in the sense that it's everlasting, it's da'im. إِلَّا مَنْ خَطِفَ الْخَطَفَةَ فَأَتْبَعَهُ شِهَابٌ ثَاقِبٌ, except one who snatches some words by theft, but they are pursued by a burning flame, piercing in brightness. The term khatifa from khatfa, khatf means to take away something quickly. And the term khatafa is used for that which is snatched or stolen quickly. And the term khatafa, in fact, is actually used for a part or piece of something that has been snatched away, like a fragment of something. إِلَّا مَنْ خَطِفَ الْخَطَفَةَ, except one who snatches some words by theft. Meaning, that kind of a devil from amongst these shayateen, who's able to grab a few words, snatch a few words from what the angels are conversing about. فَأَتْبَعَهُ شِهَابٌ ثَاقِبٌ, but they are pursued by a burning flame piercing in brightness. The term shihab from sheen ha'ba, the term shihab is used for such a flame that is bright and burning. it said it could be a flame coming out of a fire that has been ignited, or in the sky even. And the term thaqib from qaf ba, thaqib is that which penetrates something, pierces through something. So the term thaqab, it's used in the meaning of piercing, perforating, drilling, puncturing. So thaqaba also has two elements to its meaning. Number one, the meaning of quickness or speed, and number two, redness. So it has the meaning of quickness or speed and also redness. So the ones who steal some words quickly from what they hear of the conversations of the angels, these kinds of devils, they are pursued by a burning flame. Such a flame that is bright and also burning, reddish, piercing, penetrating, sharp. Now, also keep in mind that in the Arab society, fortune tellers had established their businesses by claiming to have knowledge of the unseen. And they also had a very strong influence in society, like the poets did. The people of Makkah accused Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of being a poet, but they also accused him of being a fortune teller. The reality is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not a poet, nor was he a soothsayer. He wasn't a fortune teller. So this is being refuted. It is said the heavens are under strict observation, so no jinn, no shaitan can listen to the news of the unseen or to the angels conversing with one another and then come and tell this information to a fortune teller amongst the human beings who can then claim to know matters of the unseen in totality. So meaning this revelation that is coming upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is pure. There is no falsehood that is entered into it by any jinn, any devil. So the stars are a means of adornment for the sky, but also a means of protection. And we learn in Surah Al-Jinn also, verses 8 and 9, وَأَنَّا لَمَسْنَا السَّمَاءَ فَوَجَدْنَاهَا مُلِئَتْ حَرَسًا شَدِيدًا وَشُهُبًا وَأَنَّا كُنَّا نَقْعُدُ مِنْهَا مَقَاعِدَ لِلسَّمْعِ فَمَنْ يَسْتَمِعِ الْآنَ يَجِدْ لَهُ شِهَابًا رَصَدًا. The jinn, they say, we have sought to reach the heavens, but found it filled with powerful guards. We have sought to reach the sky, the heaven, as-sama, but found it filled with powerful guards and burning flames. And we used to sit therein, positions for hearing. We used to sit therein, meaning in the sky, in positions for hearing, but whoever listens now will find a burning flame lying in wait for him. So, these special arrangements for guarding the heavens were put into place to protect this kalam that we're reciting and learning right now. In other words, this kalam is heavily protected, always has been, always will be. From the time it was revealed, the heavens were under strict guard. So in light of all of these verses, we learn that there are some jinn who are not able to listen to anything in terms of, the conversations of the angels in the heavens, in the skies. There are some amongst them who do try to listen, but then if they do try, they're struck by burning flames that pierce them. And there are some who, man khatif al-khatfa, who come away, they snatch away some words. Allah allows this to happen. But remember, everything that Allah allows to happen is not necessarily what He's pleased with. Because where human beings are being tested with limited freedom of choice in this dunya, as long as they're alive, so are the jinn. So with this freedom of choice, if some amongst the jinn try to eavesdrop on the conversations of the angels, because they're involved in some business with fortune tellers amongst human beings in this dunya, they're being tested through this. But they're failing the test because they shouldn't be doing this. It's not something that Allah is pleased with. Just like amongst human beings, there are many people who know, it's forbidden to steal from someone, usurp someone's property. But they go ahead and they do it. They do it because of some freedom of choice that they have been given temporarily. So yes, Allah allows them to go ahead and steal. They know it's wrong. This stealing is not allowed. Allah is not pleased with it, but He allows it to happen. People are tested with this freedom of choice that they've been given. Just like the people are tested with this freedom of choice, so are the jinn. Just like amongst people, certain people make bad choices. Certain jinn also make bad choices. And so amongst the jinn, those who do steal some words when it comes to the conversations of the angels that they're able to eavesdrop on, Allah does not seize them. And so they are able to take a few words and go to the soothsayers, the fortune tellers amongst human beings, and give them some information. And then those humans add some words of their own, add lies, and then they inform other human beings of certain matters. And they become a huge test for them. So this was something happening even at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it still happens today. There are some people who claim to have knowledge of the unseen, and people flock to them. And so sometimes these people, these fortune tellers, they will mention like 10 things that are about to happen, as per their, estimates. And out of those 10 things, one ends up actually happening. Right? So this one thing that actually does end up happening could be, Wallahu a'lam, Allah knows best, the result of this, man khatifa al-khatfa. A jinn was able to hear some conversation of the angels, was able to take this information to a human fortune teller, and that human fortune teller took this information, added 9 lies to it, made a total of 10, and told some other human being who came to him for fortune telling these 10 pieces of information. 9 lies, 1 truth. Okay, and then people start saying about such an individual, oh, he knows about the matters of the unseen. Because he said this was going to happen, this actually did happen. Big test, right? Big fitna. But do keep in mind that when revelation was coming down, when the Qur'an was being revealed, no one could snatch anything from the skies. No jinn could do this. But before that and afterwards, this can happen sometimes, but always bi-idhnillah, with the permission of Allah. Also keep in mind, going to certain people who claim to be fortune tellers is a blatant major wrongdoing. It's not to be done. It takes a person towards shirk. Then Allah mentions here, فَاسْتَفْتِهِمْ أَهُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا. Then inquire of them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are they a stronger or more difficult creation, or those others we have created? Like the angels. Think about Jibreel alayhi salam, having 600 wings, covering the horizon. Think about the stars, think about the sun. فَاسْتَفْتِهِمْ, then inquire of them. This word فَاسْتَفْتِهِمْ from istifta, which means to ask for fatwa. And what is fatwa? Legal ruling, from the root letters fata, ya. And the term afta, it means to advise or to give an opinion or even an instruction in a matter of law or judgment. فَاسْتَفْتِهِمْ, that inquire of them, meaning inquire of the people of Makkah for affirmation or by way of rebuke. Ask them of their opinion. What do they have to say? أَهُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا, are they a stronger or more difficult creation? Meaning as a creation, are they very, very strong? Very, very great? أَمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا, or those others we have created like angels, Jibreel alayhi salam, the stars, the sun, the earth itself. إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُمْ مِنْ طِينٍ لَازِبٍ, indeed we created them, meaning their origin, Adam alayhi salam, from sticky clay. We created them, these people, from sticky clay, meaning the first human being, these are the descendants of that human being, Adam alayhi salam, he, the first human being, was created from sticky clay. These people are his descendants. The term teen from ta ya nun. Teen means wet soil. It's a combination of mud and water. And the term lazib from lam zai ba, luzub means to cling to something, to get fixed on something or someone. So meaning to say that their physical makeup, when it comes to their origin, is fragile. So let them not behave arrogantly by rejecting this messenger, this human messenger sent for their guidance. Let them not reject the Qur'an that he's reciting. But did they understand? No. In Surah Ghafir, we learn in verse 57, لَخَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ خَلْقِ النَّاسِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The creation of the heavens and earth is greater than the creation of mankind, but most of the people do not know. In Surah An-Nazi'at, verses 27 to 33, we learn, أَأَنْتُمْ أَشَدُّ خَلْقًا أَمِ السَّمَاءُ بَنَاهَا رَفَعَ سَمْكَهَا فَسَوَّاهَا وَأَغْطَشَ لَيْلَهَا وَأَخْرَجَ ضُحَاهَا وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا أَخْرَجَ مِنْهَا مَاءَهَا وَمَرْعَاهَا وَالْجِبَالَ أَرْسَاهَا مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ. Are you a more difficult creation, or is the sky? Allah constructed it. He raised its ceiling and proportioned it. And he darkened its night and extracted its brightness. And after that, he spread the earth. He extracted from it its water and its pasture. And the mountains he set firmly as provision for you and your grazing livestock. So these grand, great creations of Allah are greater. You're not that strong. So what do you think of yourselves? Why are you so arrogant? In Surah Al-Isra, we learned in verse number 37, إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضَ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. Indeed, you will never tear the earth apart, and you will never reach the mountains in height. So what is all of this arrogance about? Okay, let's listen to the recitation of these first few verses.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصافات صفا فالزاجرات زجرا فالتاليات ذكرا إن إلهكم لواحد رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما ورب المشارق إنا زينا السماء الدنيا بزينة الكواكب وحفظا من كل شيطان مارد لا يسمعون إلى الملأ الأعلى ويقذفون من كل جانب دحورا ولهم عذاب واصب إلا من خطف الخطفة فأتبعه شهاب ثاقب فاستفتهم أهم أشد خلقا أم من خلقنا إنا خلقناهم من طين لازب
بل عجبت ويسخرون. But you wonder while they mock. You wonder at the state of a person. You marvel at their disbelief and denial of the Day of Judgment. This term bal, it's used to change the topic. Okay? And also to bring about a stoppage. Okay? Bal ajibata wa yaskharun, but you wonder while they mock. They engage in ridicule. The term ajibata from Ain Jim Ba. The term ajib is used for when one is amazed by something. So you wonder at the disbelief of the people, their rejection of the truth. The Qur'an is true, yet they don't believe in it. These people who are denying the truth, they did identify Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Sadiq and Amin, and now they're calling him Sha'ir, Majnoon, Kahin. They see the signs, yet they don't believe. Bal ajibata wa yaskharun. But you wonder while they mock at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَإِذَا ذُكِّرُوا لَا يَذْكُرُونَ. And even when they are reminded, when they're admonished in the Qur'an, they remember not, they don't pay attention. وَإِذَا رَأَوْا آيَةً يَسْتَسْخِرُونَ. And when they see a sign, they ridicule. And ayah, sign here, referring to any sign proving the messengership of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says this could be referring to the splitting of the moon. Okay. When they see a sign, they ridicule. Yastaskhirun, from sin kha. Istiskhar is to burst out of laughter in ridiculing something or someone. Earlier, the term that was used in verse 12 was what? Yaskharun. They mock. And here, yastaskhirun. With the additional letter in yastaskhirun, there is more shidda in the kalam, more mubalagha. So, yes, they make a mockery out of what they shouldn't be making a mockery out of, but then they go to extremes in that also. They exaggerate in their mockery. يَسْتَسْخِرُونَ. وَقَالُوا. And they say, meaning these deniers of the truth, they say, إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. This is not but obvious magic. This referring to the Qur'an. Or what it is that you have brought as an ayah, a sign proving your messengership. They say this is not but obvious magic, plain magic. أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَإِنَّا لَمَبْعُوثُونَ. When we have died and become dust and bones, are we indeed to be resurrected? They thought this was unlikely. They thought this would never happen. أَوَآبَاؤُنَا الْأَوَّلُونَ. And our forefathers as well. This waw here, awa abauna, this waw is connecting this statement with the previous statement. When we have died and become dust, decomposed, reduced to dust and bones, are we indeed to be resurrected? And also our forefathers? They will also be resurrected? قُلْ نَعَمْ. Say yes, you will be resurrected and so will they, your forefathers. وَأَنْتُمْ دَاخِرُونَ. And you will be rendered contemptible. The term dakhirun, plural of dakhir, from dal kha ra, from dukhur. And dukhur gives the meaning of humility, number one, ijz, which is a kind of weakness. And also dhillah, smallness. And also it can mean to be contemptible, of no value. قُلْ نَعَمْ. Say yes. وَأَنْتُمْ دَاخِرُونَ. And you will be rendered contemptible. In Surah An-Naml also we learn in verse 87, وَكُلٌّ أَتَوْهُ دَاخِرِينَ. And all will come to him humbled. Keep in mind again, this is a Makki surah. And late mid-Makkan surah. At this point, in the Makkan era, opposition and persecution against the believers had reached a peak. And these verses are being revealed. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is commanded to recite these verses to the people who are denying the truth. And this must have been difficult. فَإِنَّمَا هِيَ زَجَرَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. It will be only one shout. It meaning the second blowing of the sur, the trumpet. فَإِذَا هُمْ يَنْظُرُونَ. And at once they will be observing. They will be observing, meaning all creatures upon being resurrected will be observing, watching, observing to see what will be done with them, and they will be astonished and bewildered. Earlier we learned صَيْحَةً وَاحِدَةً in the previous surah. And here, زَجْرَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. One shout. It will be a single command from Allah. He will call them once to come forth from the earth. And this will be by means of the blowing of the trumpet. And the people will be standing before Allah, staring at the horrors of the day of resurrection. وَقَالُوا, and they will say, meaning the disbelievers will say to each other, Ya waylana, O woe to us. Hada yawmuddin, this is the day of recompense. So the disbelievers will say, Ya waylana, O woe to us. And then one way of understanding this is that they will say themselves upon realization, Hada yawmuddin, this is the day of recompense. Or the angels will say to them, Hada yawmuddin, this is the day of recompense. So in other words, they will blame themselves. They will admit that they were wrong themselves in the dunya when they see the horrors unfolding before their eyes on the day of resurrection. They will be filled with regret. But this regret will be of no benefit to them because they didn't take the warnings that came to them in the dunya seriously. Imagine somebody in this dunya being given, any kind of a warning. It could be a weather-related warning. That, be careful about strong winds. Or a combination of rain and snow. The ground might be slippery. Drive carefully. Walk carefully. A person could receive these warnings and then be like, okay, whatever. I have good shoes. I know how to drive. I've been driving in the snow for years. And then because of ignoring this warning, a person ends up suffering, slips, falls, doesn't take precaution, and then becomes regretful. So imagine the regret of these people, the deniers. Ya waylana hada yawmuddin, oh woe to us, this is the day of recompense, here it is. And now there's no turning back. In fact, no more warnings are going to come now. In certain cases in this dunya, when you need to meet a certain deadline, right? In terms of any kind of submission, you're given like one warning, and then maybe there's going to be another one, and then you think, okay, maybe there will also be a third one, until the final cutoff, after which you might be penalized. So okay, one could ignore the first warning, and then maybe the second one also, and maybe for a little while the third one. So after missing the first warning, maybe there's some regret. After the second one, maybe some regret. But then there's always the third one, right? But when it comes to this regret, there's no warning after this now that can't be ignored anymore. هَذَا يَوْمُ الْفَصْلِ, this is the day of judgment. الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ بِهِ تُكَذِّبُونَ, which you used to deny. So this statement can be understood two ways. هَذَا يَوْمُ الْفَصْلِ الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ بِهِ تُكَذِّبُونَ. One way of understanding this is that the angels will say this to them, to the deniers. They will be told this by the angels. This is the day of judgment, which you used to deny. Or the believers will say this to them. This is the day of judgment, which you used to deny. You didn't believe in this day. And then Allah will command the angels to separate the disbelievers from the believers. Even if it is that in some cases they were related, they were close friends, they used to work in the same place. The term fasl, from fa, swad, lam. Fasala means to separate, to detach. هَذَا يَوْمُ الْفَصْلِ, this is the day of judgment. The day when distinction will be made between the insolent person who's disobedient, who was in denial about the truth, and the muhsin, the doer of good. اُحْشُرُوا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, the angels will be ordered, gather those who committed wrong. The term uhshuru from hashr, ha, sheen, ra. Hashr means jama', to gather from different places to one place. So the angels will be ordered, uhshuru alladhina zalamu, gather those who committed wrong, those who did zulm. Zulm here means shirk and also kufr. Because inna shirka la zulmun azim, as we learn in Surah Luqman verse 13. Indeed, shirk is the greatest wrongdoing. But then also we learn in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 254, وَالْكَافِرُونَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. The kafirun are zalimun. So zulm here in the meaning of shirk and kufr. اُحْشُرُوا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, gather those who committed wrong, وَأَزْوَاجَهُمْ, and their kinds, وَمَا كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَ, and what they used to worship. And azwaj, plural of zawj. So zawj is used in the meaning of spouse, but also mate. Okay. So here in this context, azwaj, what does it mean? It means their likes, those who are similar to them in their actions. So meaning it could even be in a certain case, a zani with a zaniya, right? A male involved in zina with the female involved in zina. Okay? So azwajahum, their kinds, those who were similar to them in practices. And this is why we need to be mindful of what we learn from hadith. Also Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi. A man is upon the deen of his friend, meaning way of life. So those who were similar in terms of way of life will be together, in other words. But also we learn from hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, al-mar'u ma'a man ahabba. A man will be with the one that he loves. For the Sahaba, this was the best thing they could hear, because they genuinely, sincerely loved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not just through words but also through actions. For them that was a good news, that they will be united with him in the hereafter as well. Hassan al-Basri, he says about this term azwajahum in this context, that it refers to mushrik wives of mushrikeen. So meaning the mushrikeen will take their families along with them, because they were combined when it comes to their practices of shirk. They had combined their forces, their resources, their festivities, their times of celebration. Or azwajahum over here could mean their mates, their associates from amongst the devils, partners in crime. So people with their shayateen whom they used to obey. In Surah Al-A'raf, we learn in verse number 202, وَإِخْوَانُهُمْ يَمُدُّونَهُمْ فِي الْغَيِّ ثُمَّ لَا يُقْصِرُونَ. But their brothers, the devils, increase them in error, then they do not stop short. So the angels will be ordered, gather those who committed wrong and their kinds and what they used to worship, meaning their idols and false gods that they worship besides Allah. They will all be gathered together with them in the same place. So gather those who committed zulm, meaning in terms of shirk and kufr, their kinds and what they used to worship, min dunillah, other than Allah. Wahduhum ila siratil jahim, and guide them, meaning direct them to the path of hellfire, to the way that leads to the hellfire. The term fahduhum from hidayah, and hidayah means guidance, which is the name of, actually, if you think about it, a transformation. Being led from one state to another state, and also to be made to reach the right destination. Hidayah is a kind of transformation. When a person internalizes guidance, then what happens? They have been able to move from one stage to another stage. Right? Meaning they have been shown the way, and then they have taken that way, and they have reached the right destination. From one stage to the next stage. Okay? So, فَهْدُوهُمْ, and guide them, meaning direct them, drive them, so that they go exactly and precisely where they need to go and they don't get lost on the way. They reach the right destination from one stage to the next. فَهْدُوهُمْ إِلَى صِرَاطِ الْجَحِيمِ, and guide them to the path of hellfire. But not yet. وَقِفُوهُمْ, and stop them, meaning detain them. إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ, indeed they are to be questioned. They are to be brought to account with regards to what they were up to in this dunya. The term قِفُوهُمْ from وَقَفَ, it can mean to pause, meaning to pause oneself. It can also mean to stop another. It can be understood as lazim and also muta'addi, intransitive and also transitive. And the term qif, it's fi'l amr, it means stop. Waqf, as you know, it means pause. So waqifuhum, and stop them, detain them. Why? Innahum mas'ulun, indeed they are to be questioned. Mas'ulun, plural of mas'ul, from sin, hamza, lam. Mas'ul is one who is questioned. Su'al means question. So each and every person will be brought to account. In Surah Al-Hijr, we learn in verses 92 and 93, فَوَرَبِّكَ لَنَسْأَلَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So by your Lord, we will surely question them all about what they used to do. But yes, 70,000 people from the Muslim Ummah, the followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will enter Jannah without being brought to account, without any hisab. They will not be detained and questioned and stopped. They will enter into Jannah directly. And then here we learn that Allah mentions, by way of rebuke, zajr, it will be said to these people, the criminals, the wrongdoers, the ones involved in shirk and kufr, مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَنَاصَرُونَ, what is wrong with you? Why do you not help each other? As you used to help each other in the dunya, you were partners in crime. The term tanasarun from tanasur, from nun sadra. Tanasur means mutual help. Bal humul yawma mustaslimun, but they that day are in surrender. Bal again for idrab. For idrab, meaning putting a stoppage. Bal. Why don't these people help each other? مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَنَاصَرُونَ, what's wrong with you? Why don't you help each other? Instead of helping each other, this is their case. بَلْ هُمُ الْيَوْمَ مُسْتَسْلِمُونَ, they, meaning those who rejected the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they rejected the truth. They made a mockery out of deen. They made fun of the messenger. They made fun of the Qur'an. They that day are in surrender. They're far from being able to mutually help each other out. They that day are in surrender. Mustaslimun from istislam. And istislam meaning talabus salama, to seek submission, to try to submit with obedience. Ibn Abbas, he says, mustaslimun over here meaning khadi'un, humbled. So those who were arrogant in the dunya, who didn't believe, who disobeyed Allah, rejected the teachings of the messenger, when they're stopped for questioning what will their state be, they're not going to be able to help each other out mutually like they used to in the dunya. The reality is, bal humul yawma mustaslimun. They will try to offer complete submission and compliance. But this kind of submission and compliance will not be of benefit at all, because it's too late. Let's listen to the recitation of these verses.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بل عجبت ويسخرون وإذا ذكروا لا يذكرون وإذا رأوا آية يستسخرون وقالوا إن هذا إلا سحر مبين أإذا متنا وكنا ترابا وعظاما أإنا لمبعوثون أو آباؤنا الأولون قل نعم وأنتم داخرون فإنما هي زجرة واحدة فإذا هم ينظرون وقالوا يا ويلنا هذا يوم الدين هذا يوم الفصل الذي كنتم به تكذبون احشروا الذين ظلموا وأزواجهم وما كانوا يعبدون من دون الله فاهدوهم إلى صراط الجحيم وقفوهم إنهم مسؤولون ما لكم لا تناصرون بل هم اليوم مستسلمون.
Think about this scene that is being described here. How the circumstances will significantly change for people. Those who used to be arrogant, so arrogant, will try to become totally compliant at a time when that compliance will be of no benefit. And now we see that those friends who used to be partners in crime in this dunya, they will actually not be united. They will be punished. They will want to surrender. They will want to submit. And what will their state become? Where they used to be united, they will become disunited. وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ, and they will approach one another, blaming each other. أَقْبَلَ from qaf ba lam, qabl means before or ahead. أَقْبَلَ يُقْبِلُ, iqbal means to go ahead and to move forward. And أَقْبَلَ, when it comes with ila or ala, it means to turn towards someone. And that is the usage here. وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. They will approach one another, blaming each other. يَتَسَاءَلُونَ from tasa'ul, from sin hamza lam. Tasa'ul means to ask one another. It can also mean to blame. So when they see that they're not being responded to positively, they will turn upon each other and they will start disputing. قالوا, they will say, إنكم كنتم تأتوننا عن اليمين. Indeed you, O you leaders, used to come at us from the right. So the followers will say to those whom they followed. Or the worshippers will say to their false gods, إنكم كنتم تأتوننا عن اليمين. Indeed you, O you leaders, or false gods, you used to come at us from the right. And notice kuntum ta'tunana. This is madi istimrari. It gives the meaning of past continuous. Okay, we learned that when kuntum or kana, it comes before a fi'l mudari', it gives the meaning of madi. Okay, past continuous. So indeed you used to, meaning you always used to come at us from the right. Yameen from ya mim nun. Now what does this mean? Yameen, first of all, is used for the right side or the right hand. Okay? So this statement, indeed you used to come at us from the yameen, meaning from that aspect in which we used to trust you, from the good side. Because generally speaking, when you do something good, you should do it with the right side, right hand. Okay? So, you used to come at us from the right side, meaning from the good side. You promised us goodness, in other words. You used certain tools to misguide us. And these kinds of tools, these kinds of mechanisms people have used in all times, right? Even when it comes to marketing, when it comes to advertising. A drink that is full of only sugar, it's very harmful for you, is advertised as energy drink. So this is coming from the right side. Coming at people from the right side, meaning from the good side. People want energy, so come at them from that side. Talk to them about energy. How this drink is going to give them energy. Okay? So the followers will say to those whom they followed, indeed you used to come at us from the right. Meaning from aspects in which we used to trust you, from the good side. Making what is really bad seem to be very good. Or anil yamin, meaning yamin in the sense of quwwah. Because the right hand, yamin, the right hand is a symbol of power also. Okay, so it's used in the meaning of taqa, ability, or quwwah, strength. So, ta'tunana anil yamin, you used to come at us from yamin, meaning you pressurized us. You forced us. In the name of sometimes tribalism, in the name of, modernism. So, you enslaved us, in other words, through your pressure tactics. And so people have become enslaved, even in our day and age, to all kinds of things. All kinds of deviant lifestyles. It's a blatant regression when it comes to practices. I mean, people wanting to live in a way that they're closer to animals, even in their physical appearances, than they are to human beings. And this is, called what? Progressive behavior? This is enlightenment? This is freedom? It's actually enslavement. Right? But people are pressurized into adopting these kinds of lifestyles. Right? Then also, the expression ityan anil yamin, coming from the right side. It's taken as a phrase also, meaning to compel or pressurize, by way of also swearing oaths. Because yamin is also used in the meaning of qasam, taking an oath, making a solid commitment or a promise. So you used to swear that you're following the truth, and you used to invite us towards the same practice, but it wasn't the truth you were inviting us towards, it was falsehood. We believed you, we followed you, you were taking oaths. You were swearing oaths that you're upon the truth, you're upon ways that are guided, you're bringing us towards what's good for us. In other words, you led us astray. Innakum kuntum ta'tunana anil yamin. Indeed, you used to come at us from the right, meaning from the good side, and then we trusted you. Or with a great amount of quwwah and taqa. You pressurized us. You enslaved us. And this enslavement could even be intellectual enslavement, right? It doesn't have to be physical. And also this implies you used to take oaths, pressurizing us, promising us that you're upon the guided ways. Qalu, they will say, meaning the ones who were followed, the leaders, or the false gods. Bal lam takunu mu'minin, rather you yourselves were not believers. Don't blame us, we never forced you. This is not true what you're saying, that indeed you used to come at us from the right. The leaders will say, rather you yourselves were not believers. For it would only be true that we led you astray through pressure if you actually had been believers in the first place, and then rejected faith, and then chose to follow us. So why are you blaming us? وَمَا كَانَ لَنَا عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ, and we had over you no authority, no power to compel you to follow us. بَلْ كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا طَاغِينَ, but you were a transgressing people. You chose طغيان. The term طاغين from the term طاغي, or the plural of the term طاغي. طاغي is the one who goes beyond limits. So it can even be used for a disbeliever who exceeds in his kufr, in his disbelief. And طغيان is used for rebellion, the state of being unfair, or the instance of oppression, or oppressing someone, crossing the bounds in isyan, in disobedience. فَحَقَّ عَلَيْنَا قَوْلُ رَبِّنَا, so the word of our Lord has come into effect upon us, meaning it is due against us, all of us, the leaders and the followers. The leaders chose to lead in a certain fashion, the followers chose to follow in a certain fashion. The term haqqa from haqaf qaf. Imam Raghib, he says that haqq is a qawl or a fi'l, meaning a statement or an action that occurs as it should occur, at the right time, in the correct way. And also it's right in terms of quantity as well. So which qawl is being referred to here? The sentence of punishment, which we learn of in Surah Sad verse 85 and also in Surah Hud verse 119. لَأَمْلَأَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنْكَ وَمِمَّنْ تَبِعَكَ مِنْهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. So in Surah Sad verse 85 we learn this is mentioned that I will surely fill hell with you, Iblis, and those of them that follow you altogether. And a similar statement is mentioned in Surah Hud also. فَحَقَّ عَلَيْنَا قَوْلُ رَبِّنَا, so the word of our Lord has come into effect upon us. إِنَّا لَذَائِقُونَ, indeed we will both taste punishment. So this blame game is not going to be favorable for anyone. Not for the leaders nor for the followers. فَأَغْوَيْنَاكُمْ إِنَّا كُنَّا غَاوِينَ, and we led you to deviation. Indeed we were deviators. أَغْوَيْنَاكُمْ from غَيْن وَوْيَا. أَغْوَى means to lead the other astray, to misguide. And غَي is used for religious misguidance, opposite of rushd, which is used for guidance or maturity in deen. So keep in mind, hidayah is general guidance. Dalal, general misguidance. These are opposites. Okay? But then ghay is a kind of misguidance. Which kind? Religious misguidance. And rushd is a kind of guidance. Which kind? Religious guidance. Meaning religious maturity. So, فَأَغْوَيْنَاكُمْ إِنَّا كُنَّا غَاوِينَ, and we led you to deviation, meaning we called you towards misguidance. Indeed, we were deviators. غَاوِين, plural of غَاوِي. فَإِنَّهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُشْتَرِكُونَ, so indeed they that day, meaning on the day of judgment, will be sharing in the punishment as they shared in misguidance. The term mushtarikun, plural of mushtarik, from ishtirak, from sheen ra kaf. Ishtirak means to take part in something, to be a participant in something. So all of them will be in the hellfire, each according to what he deserves. In Surah Al-A'raf, verse 38, we learn, قَالَ دُخُلُوا فِي أُمَمٍ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ فِي النَّارِ. Allah will say, enter among nations which had passed on before you of jinn and mankind into the fire. Every time a nation enters, it will curse its sister until when they have all overtaken one another therein. حَتَّى إِذَا ادَّارَكُوا فِيهَا جَمِيعًا. The last of them will say to the first of them, رَبَّنَا هَؤُلَاءِ أَضَلُّونَا فَآتِهِمْ عَذَابًا ضِعْفًا مِنَ النَّارِ. Our Lord, these had misled us, so give them a double punishment of the fire. He will say, لِكُلٍّ ضِعْفٍ, for each is double. وَلَكِنْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, but you do not know. And here Allah mentions, إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَفْعَلُ بِالْمُجْرِمِينَ. Indeed, that is how we deal with the criminals, in the same way that has been described. The term mujrimeen, plural of mujrim. Mujrim is one who commits crime, commits jurm. And jurm applies to any wrong act that is punishable, any crime that carries with it a penalty. So mujrimeen, those who commit jurm, meaning that jurm could be kufr, it could be shirk, it could be disobedience to Allah. So in summary, on the Day of Judgment, each person will realize his mistake in full. And then each one will try to find some way to put the blame on someone else. But this will be of no benefit. The followers will say to the leaders, you misled us. The leaders will say, but you chose to be misled. You wanted transgression. So in this, there is a great lesson. Anytime a person feels that he or she is being pressurized in a way that they're being taken away from obeying the commands of Allah, that pressure should not be accepted in any circumstance. Because on the Day of Judgment, the ones who might be pressurizing will not come around to help at all. They won't take any part of the blame of misguiding people. But today people present all kinds of excuses for not obeying the commands of Allah. My friends are like this, so I have to listen. I mean, after all, you need friends. My husband is like that. After all, I'm the wife, so I have to be compliant. My parents, they're like this and like that. My boss is like this and like that. And like this, we become ready to compromise when it comes to principles of deen in the name of peer pressure of some kind. Although we know clearly there is no obedience of the creation in the disobedience of the Supreme Creator. In Surah Ibrahim, we learn in verse 22, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ. And Shaitan will say when the matter has been concluded, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ. Indeed, Allah had promised you the promise of truth. And I promised you, but I betrayed you. But I had no authority over you except that I invited you, and you responded to me. So do not blame me, but blame yourselves. I cannot be called to your aid, nor can you be called to my aid. Indeed, I deny your association of me with Allah before. Indeed, for the wrongdoers is a painful punishment. And then Allah mentions, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا إِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. Indeed, they, meaning these sinners, these mujrimeen, when it was said to them, there is no deity but Allah, they were arrogant. يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. From istikbar, which means assuming arrogance. So what was the crime of these mujrimeen? They did not take Allah as their God, their only God. They didn't want to obey Him only. وَيَقُولُونَ, and they were saying, meaning they used to say, أَإِنَّا لَتَارِكُ آلِهَتِنَا لِشَاعِرٍ مَجْنُونَ. Are we to leave our gods for a mad poet? And who are they referring to? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what they used to say. The term tariku was actually tarikun, noon has been dropped. Are we to leave our gods for a mad poet, a crazy poet? In other words, they're implying that, okay, yes, what it is that he says is quite eloquent, it's quite moving, but it's all madness. So this can be understood as sifa mawsuf sha'irin majnoon, that they're saying he is a crazy poet, or there is atf in the middle, that he's a poet and he's also crazy. Now this was not just something said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The deniers of the truth in every era said something like this, similar to this to their prophets. In Surah Fussilat, we learn in verse number 43, مَا يُقَالُ لَكَ إِلَّا مَا قَدْ قِيلَ لِلرُّسُلِ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. Nothing is said to you except what was already said to the messengers before you. And so, if these kinds of statements were said to the messengers, what about those who convey the truth after the messengers? They will also from time to time have to hear these kinds of statements. بَلْ جَاءَ بِالْحَقِّ وَصَدَّقَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. Rather, the Prophet has come with truth. What he's sharing, what he's conveying is not a result of madness. It's not poetry, it's the truth. وَصَدَّقَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ, and confirm the previous messengers, meaning those who had also brought this truth, which is that there is no God worthy of worship besides Allah. All the messengers brought the same message. And the Qur'an completes and finalizes the message sent before. إِنَّكُمْ لَذَائِقُ الْعَذَابِ الْأَلِيمِ. Indeed, you disbelievers will be tasters of the painful punishment. Why? Because you rejected the message of the messenger. And notice how there is iltifat here. There is a shifting from the third person address to the second person. From innahum to innakum, which is conveying like an increase in reproach. Indeed, you disbelievers will be tasters of the painful punishment. وَمَا تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, and you will not be recompensed except for what you used to do. And Allah is not unjust to anyone. As we learn in Surah Fussilat, verse 46. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ, and your Lord is not ever unjust to his servants. وَمَا تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, and you will not be recompensed except for what you used to do. إِلَّا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ الْمُخْلَصِينَ, but not the chosen servants of Allah. So here Allah makes an exception in the case of his sincerely believing servants. Al-Mukhlasin. Mukhlasin, plural of mukhlas. Mukhlas is one chosen, selected because of ikhlas, because of sincerity. Now, illa can be of two types. One is connected, meaning connected with the previous statement, in the meaning of giving an exception. And the other is munqati', disconnected, in the meaning of but. So here a new topic begins. Okay, so this is munqati', disconnected. Illa ibadallahi al-mukhlasin, but not the chosen servants of Allah. Those who are free from the impurities of kufr and shirk. The mukhlasin, in other words, will be saved from punishment. And these mukhlasin have been described in many places in the Qur'an. In Surah Al-Waqi'ah, also as Ashabul Maymana. And also in Surah Al-Muddathir. كل نفس بما كسبت رهينة إلا أصحاب اليمين. Every soul for what it has earned will be retained except the companions of the right. And also in Surah Al-Asr, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And here Allah mentions further, أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ رِزْقٌ مَعْلُومٌ, those will have in Jannah a provision determined, fixed, specified, whose quantity and characteristics are well known. So, ma'loom from Ain Lam Mim, right? Ma'loom meaning one whose ilm is known, whose knowledge is there, it's known. So what does this mean, rizqum ma'loom? Rizq that is known in terms of its traits. Its traits are known. Its kayfiyah is known. The types of the provision are also known. The ladha is known, meaning the taste is known. Meaning it's not completely strange. Rather somewhat familiar, which means liked. And also, the time of getting that rizq is also ma'aloom, meaning morning and evening. وَلَهُمْ رِزْقُهُمْ فِيهَا بُكْرَةً وَعَشِيًّا. Okay, the timing is also known for this rizq. And Qatada, he says, rizq that is ma'aloom, meaning Jannah and whatever is in it. Another meaning is, rizqum ma'aloom is such rizq that is known by Allah alone. Only He has ilm of it. So meaning for us, it's a surprise. For people, it's a surprise because only Allah knows of it. But also keep in mind here, ma'aloom doesn't take on the meaning of being fixed and limited. Okay? Because the inhabitants of Jannah will be given provision that is unlimited. Okay? Fawakih, fruits. Wahum mukramun, and they will be honored. Fawakih, plural of fakiha. From fakiha, which means to be joyful, cheerful, pleased. And fakiha is fruit that is eaten just for fun, for pleasure. So all types of delicious and good fruits. Wahum mukramun, and they will be honored, treated like guests. Their darajat elevated. They will be respected and given this life of luxury that will never fade. Notice how food and honor is mentioned side by side. Why? In the dunya, the believers did not have much respect in the eyes of people. They were made fun of. So Allah will honor them in the hereafter. In dunya, it is not necessary that the one who has blessings, like food and drink, also has honor. The one who has a lot of knowledge many a times becomes very disrespected and ignored also, sidelined. And many times a person may have a lot of wealth or even knowledge and experience, but no one gives him respect. This will not be the case in Jannah. The people of Jannah will have blessings, meaning food and drink of the best kind, and also honor. And the people of Jannah will be treated like guests. And a very important part of hosting someone and receiving them as a guest is to present to them food. How do you honor your guests? By presenting to them the best food that you can offer. في جنات النعيم, in gardens of pleasure. Na'im from Noon Ain Mim, on the structure of fa'il. Ni'mah means blessing, comfort, delight, ease. في جنات النعيم, in gardens of pleasure, delights. And in fact, when it comes to Jannah, ليس فيها إلا نعيم. It's just full of na'im. It's just full of delights. على سرر متقابلين, on thrones facing one another. Surur from sin, plural of sarir. And sarir is used for a special kind of a place of sitting in which there is grandeur. Sarirul Malik is used for a throne on which the king sits with grandeur. Okay? Ala surur, on thrones, mutaqabilin, facing one another. Mutaqabilin, plural of mutaqabil, from taqabul, which means to be in front of one another. Qabl means before, and qubul means to accept or to receive. So when you're receiving someone as a guest, you face them by way of accepting them, welcoming them, acknowledging them. So ala sururim mutaqabilin, on thrones facing one another. This is also a way of honoring them. They will have the best seating arrangements. They will not have to see each other's backs. They will be able to face one another. يُطَافُ عَلَيْهِمْ بِكَأْسٍ مِّن مَّعِينٍ, there will be circulated among them a cup from a flowing spring. يُطَافُ from طَوَوْفَ, طَافَ يَطُوفُ, it means to go around or to circulate. The term ta'if is actually used for a night guard, because he has to circulate here and there, checking around to see what's happening. He has to keep a watch. And the term tafa, when it comes with ala, like it does here, yutafu alayhim, it means to pass or take around. Tawaf means to circumambulate, to go around something, to revolve around something. So yutafu alayhim bika'sin min ma'in, there will be circulated among them a cup. And the term ka's is used for a cup or a drinking vessel, like a tumbler, which is full of mashroob, full of drink. It's not just the empty vessel. There will be circulated a cup among them, min ma'in, from a flowing spring. Ma'in from mim ain nun. Ma'ana means smooth, gentle, flowing. Or from ain ya nun. Ain means eye, but it also is used for spring water. And so it is used for such water that flows on the surface, it's seen with the eye. From Ain Ya Nun. And so this is referring to a spring of wine that flows along the ground like streams of water in the dunya. Of course, anything in the Jannah will be far, far, far superior, okay, in its howness. In Surah Al-Insan, we learn in verse 21, وَسَقَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ شَرَابًا طَهُورًا, and their Lord will give them a purifying drink. So here the style of serving is described. One way of serving people is that people who are being served are served from the front or from all directions. And one is that they are served from the side. so that there is no interference in them conversing with whoever's in front of them. So the people of Jannah, they're sitting in a way that they're able to face each other, which means they're able to converse with each other. They're able to enjoy each other's company. And then they are going to be served from the side, not from the front, so that they can continue to enjoy each other's company. بَيْضَاءَ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ, white and delicious to the drinkers. And this is describing the drink that they are going to be given, that is going to be served to them. It's not like self-serve, right? Get up and get your own food and drink. They will be served. The term bayda from bayadod, feminine of abyad. Feminine of abyad. So, meaning it's in the superlative degree, so very bright. Hasan al-Basri, he says, whiter than milk. And so this is coming here as a description of the ka'as, the drinking vessel in which there is the drink. It's not an empty vessel, right? This drink itself will be sparkling. Bayda. Very, very white. Ladhatil lisharibin, and delicious to the drinkers. The term ladha from lam dal dal, ladhif is what a person finds to be delicious. Whatever it is that a person finds to be delicious. Some people find sweet things delicious. Some people find salty things delicious. So delicious to the drinkers. Its taste will be as good as its color. And a good taste indicates that it also has a good smell. Unlike wine of this dunya, which maybe in some cases would be pleasing to the eyes, but in terms of smell, it's not pleasing. And in terms of after effects, it's definitely not pleasing. So here Allah mentions, describing this drink of the people of Jannah, La fiha ghawl, no bad effect is there in it. Wala hum anha yunzafun, nor from it will they be intoxicated. The term ghawl from ghayn waw lam, ghala yaghulu, it means to destroy something suddenly, unexpectedly, in such a way that one cannot even tell what happened. And so the term ghawl is used for headache. And then it's also used for the bad effect of something. When something is, or someone is getting deprived of even intellectual faculties. When someone is very confused. And then also this term is used in the meaning of someone being intoxicated heavily, not being able to function properly. And the after effects of consumption of alcoholic beverages include headache, also vomiting, faintness, stomach problems, okay, not being sensible in terms of your judgment, sometimes in extreme cases also death, okay. So here Allah describes, La fiha qawl, no bad effect is there in it. The term ghila from ghayn waw lam is used for a woman who practices magic, sihr, because that also brings about an impact, right? So, La fiha ghawl, no bad effect is there in it. Wala hum anha yunzafun, nor from it will they be intoxicated. Yunzafun from nun zaifa. Nazf means to exhaust something gradually, to drain something. Nazafal ma al bi'ra means to take out the water from the well gradually. Also, the expression nuzifa dam'ahu means his tears were exhausted gradually. And so the masdar in zaf, it means when one loses his mind gradually because of intoxication. وَعِنْدَهُمْ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ, and with them will be women limiting their glances. Ain, with large beautiful eyes. The term qasirat, plural of qasirah, from qaf sad ra. Qasr means to reduce or shorten. And qasara, it means to confine or restrict. So the expression qasara nafsahu ala kada, it means he became content with such and such, meaning a certain matter. He became content. And the term tarf, it's used for literally the side or the edge of something, or the limit of something. but then it's also used for the sight. Tarful ayn is used for the blinking of the eye, the time it takes to blink the eye. And in the term tarf, there is the element of looking for a qalil muddah, a short time. So what does this mean? وَعِنْدَهُمْ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ, and with them will be women limiting their glances? There are a few explanations of this. Number one, these women will see so much beauty in their own spouses that they will be completely content. No need to look anywhere else. There's one meaning of qasiratul tarf. Women with restrained glances. Meaning, who reserve their glances exclusively for their spouses. They don't need to look anywhere else because of the amount of beauty they see in their spouses. Okay? Secondly, because of their being so chaste, having a lot of haya, they don't look here and there, especially when it comes to looking at other men. Because keep in mind, men have a lot of ghira, a possessive kind of jealousy. Okay? In Surah Sad, we learn in verse 52, وَعِنْدَهُمْ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ أَتْرَابٌ, and with them will be women limiting their glances and of equal age. Meaning there will be perfect compatibility. So with them will be وَعِنْدَهُمْ, and with them will be قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ, women limiting their glances, عين, with large beautiful eyes. عين from عين ya nun. Plural of عينا. So عين meaning attractively wide-eyed. But despite their large and beautiful eyes, their vision will not wander here and there because of their haya. And for a woman to have this quality in Jannah, she must possess this quality to some extent in this dunya, if she wants this to be one of her qualities in Jannah. In Surah Al-Rahman, we learn in verse 56, فِيهِنَّ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ لَمْ يَطْمِثْهُنَّ إِنسٌ قَبْلَهُمْ وَلَا جَانٌ. In them are women limiting their glances, untouched before them by man or jinn. And here Allah mentions كَأَنَّهُنَّ بَيْضٌ مَكْنُونٌ, as if they were, in terms of their color, delicate eggs, well protected. The term bayd, plural of baydah, which is used for an egg. And Hassan al-Basri, he says, this term here is referring to the egg of the ostrich, which is not totally like white, nor is it like yellow. It's a pinkish kind of beautiful color. And maknoon from kaf noon noon. Kanna means to conceal something. And kanna, it also has two elements to its meaning. Number one, to hide. Number two, to protect. In Surah Al-Waqi'ah, verse 23, we learn كَأَمْثَالِ اللُّؤْلُؤِ الْمَكْنُونِ, the likenesses of pearls well protected. In Surah Al-Rahman, verse 58, كَأَنَّهُنَّ الْيَاقُوتُ وَالْمَرْجَانِ, as if they were rubies and coral. Now keep in mind, where do we like to keep our precious stones and jewels? Hidden, covered, because they're so valuable. So when Allah told women to cover themselves properly, this is so that they remain well protected because they're so valuable. It's not zulm, it's not injustice. Because anything that is valuable is protected. So really the command to cover properly and to dress modestly for women is a means of honor. A means of honor here in this world and also in terms of the hereafter. فَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ, and they, meaning some of the inhabitants of Jannah, will approach one another, inquiring of each other, questioning each other regarding what they experienced in the worldly life. And this is part of their conversation when they get together to converse and drink, sitting on their thrones, servants coming and serving them, bringing them all kinds of blessings. And then while they are talking, one of them will remember something. قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ إِنِّي كَانَ لِي قَرِينٌ, a speaker among them of the people of Jannah will say, indeed I had a companion on earth. Qareen from Qaf Ra Noon. Qarn means generation or century. And iqtiran means to couple together. And qareen means friend. This qareen could be a friend, an associate, maybe some kind of relation. Basically, a companion who used to reject the idea of resurrection. يَقُولُ أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ, who would say to me in reproach, are you indeed of those who believe? So a speaker among the people of Jannah will say, indeed I had a companion on earth, qareen, meaning a person who used to reject the resurrection, who would say to me in reproach, يَقُولُ أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ, are you indeed, as if amazed, really? Are you indeed of those who believe? You believe in God? You believe in hereafter? You believe in resurrection after death? Are you really going to be amongst those who affirm the truth? أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَإِنَّا لَمَدِينُونَ, that when we have died and become dust and bones, we will indeed be recompensed. And notice the repetition of the hamza of istifham here. This repetition, this takrar, is to show extreme disbelief and rejection. That seriously, when we have died and become dust and bones, we will indeed be recompensed. Lamadinun, from dal ya nun, plural of madin. Deen means religion, but it can also mean recompense. So madin is the one who is judged, one who is recompensed fully. Primarily, this term madin is used for a slave whose recompense is fully given. Now, this is a very common situation. A believer and a disbeliever meeting one another because they're associates. Maybe they work together. They live in the same place. They talk about different things, and then at times the topic of deen comes up. The topic of religion comes up. Then where does this discussion head? As is described here. The disbeliever saying, are you really amongst those who believe? أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ. We're living here in the age of science and technology. We're developing artificial intelligence. We want to reach other planets. And you believe in something that was revealed more than 1400 years ago in a desert. How can this be? And as they will be conversing, قَالَ هَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُطَّلِعُونَ, he will say, would you care to look? Will you look down? So meaning Allah will say, or an angel will say, or someone from among the believers in Jannah will say, would you care to look? مُطَّلِعُونَ from طَلَعَ, طَلَمْعٍ. طَلَعَ means to rise. So مُطَّلِعُونَ, plural of مُطَّلِعْ. مُطَّلِعْ is one who looks down or becomes acquainted with something. اطَّلَعَ basically means to look into something from above. So would you care to look down and see? فَاطَّلَعَ فَرَآهُ فِي سَوَاءِ الْجَحِيمِ, and he will look, that speaker will take a look and see him, his qareen, who used to deny resurrection, in the midst of the hellfire. So the believer remembered this friend of his, and the outcome of his qareen, his friend, was shown to him. That qareen who used to say there's no resurrection, there's no hereafter, no recompense. So he will be shown his outcome. And at that time he will say, قَالَ تَاللَّهِ إِن كِدْتَ لَتُرْدِينَ. He will say, by Allah, you almost ruined me if I had obeyed you. You nearly destroyed me through your misguidance. This ta here in tallahi, this ta is harf qasam. It is said it is used also for ta'ajjub, for amazement. So he will say, by Allah, you almost ruined me. Kitta from kaf waw dal. Kada, yakadu. It's used for when something is very near to happening. And the term laturdin from ra dal ya. Radiya means to be destroyed or to perish. Arda means to destroy something by dropping it from a height. And this term was actually turdini. The ya has been abbreviated, hence you see the kasra under the noon. The ya of first person, abbreviated. So he will say, by Allah, you almost ruined me. وَلَوْلَا نِعْمَةُ رَبِّي لَكُنْتُ مِنَ الْمُحْضَرِينَ. If not for the favor of my Lord, I would have been of those brought into hell for punishment. Were it not for the favor of my Rabb towards me, I would have been like you in the midst of the hellfire. But my Rabb bestowed His fadl, His grace upon me, His mercy, and guided me towards Iman. In Surah Al-A'raf, we learn in verse number 43, وَقَالُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي هَدَانَا لِهَذَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَ اللَّهِ. And the people of Jannah, they will say, praise to Allah who has guided us to this, and we would never have been guided if Allah had not guided us. أَفَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَيِّتِينَ. Then are we not to die? Mayyitin, plural of mayyit. Who's saying this? The speaker in Jannah. Upon realizing the great blessing of Allah, he will say this. And this interrogative statement is one made out of sheer delight. And also in order to speak at length about the fadl of Allah. He's saying, we're not going to die now, right? Out of excitement, out of happiness. Because he's so satisfied with where he is. إِلَّا مَوْتَتَنَا الْأُولَى. Except, meaning aside from our first death, the one we suffered in the world. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. And we will not be punished now after entering Jannah. There's no death, no punishment. Only a life of eternal joy and delight. So this is basically what is known as istifham taqriri. An interrogative that is for confirmation. It's not really intended to ask a question for a specific response, but to just give affirmation, to add emphasis. So he will say, we're not to die, right? Except for our first death, meaning the one we experienced, and we will not be punished. Inna hadha lahuwa al-fawzul azim. Indeed, this, meaning what has been mentioned, as being the reward for the inhabitants of Jannah, is the great attainment. لِمِثْلِ هَذَا فَلْيَعْمَلِ الْعَامِلُونَ. For the like of this, let the workers on earth work, so that they may attain success in the hereafter. For the like of this, meaning this Jannah and its delights, its pleasures, this success which is fawzul azim. For the like of this, let the workers on earth work. So what do we learn from this? Whatever the situation may be, whatever the circumstances might be, protect your faith because it's your biggest treasure. And don't come under any pressure when it comes to compromising on your faith. It's your biggest treasure. All right, so inshallah we will stop here for now. When we resume tomorrow, inshallah we will continue the same lesson after listening to the recitation from verse number 62 onwards. Okay, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر